arrival of the new year, I've been trying to think of creative ways to use up some of those oddballs in my stash. While in my last video, I chatted with you about some of the bigger projects I had planned for 2025, I also really wanted to make a quick little pattern video sharing some of the more sort of scrappy or stash busting projects that I had had my eye on for the last few weeks. I always find January to be that sort of perfect time to have a look at my stash, assess how much I've got, and really try and plan projects that use up some of the odd bits that I have left over. This video is organised both by quantity but also by technique and type. I have several different options here, ranging from larger projects that incorporate a few different colours, all the way down to very small and simple accessories. So there should be something for everyone, no matter what sort of pattern you're looking for your stash busting. My first category is naturally colourwork sweaters, because I feel like one of the most obvious ways to integrate some leftover yarn into a larger project is to find the right colourwork pattern. Both sweaters that I've selected here use around 3 colours to create beautiful all-over colourwork motifs. However, I do also feel that they could be equally well customised to accommodate 5 or even 6 colours if you want a whole wide range of shades to play with. Pattern number 1 is a beautiful modern take on Fair Isle knitting, and it is the Coloured Crosses Senior by Ventzel. Before I'd even learned how to do colourwork knitting, this pattern was already on my list. I was immediately drawn to the very oversized and casual fit of this sweater, but also the fact that it seamlessly blends these gorgeous crosses all the way through the body in several different shades. I really like her choices of colour here. As many of you will know, I'm a big lover of mixing creams, browns and navy, so I think that this just looks so good. This jumper also has a slightly nautical flavour to it. Probably because of the colour combination here, but also maybe due to the fact that it features a gorgeous neat rolled neck. Now the neck, the cuffs and the hem, they all use twisted rib, which in this case I think just really accentuates those clean lines of the ribbing and gives it a pop of something special. Although you would need to buy yarn for the main body and colour of this sweater, all of the various crosses could be very easily customised into whatever hue you desire. As previously mentioned, I believe this sample uses around 3 different colours. However, I have also seen this designer make versions of this sweater that is a complete rainbow of different shades. I also really like the fact that this sweater includes alterations options for men. That makes it a very easy unisex project that you could make for a loved one but also for yourself, maybe even matching if you fancied it. She does also include a separate pattern for children if you want one for the whole family. The Coloured Crosses sweater comes in a total of 5 sizes, from extra small to XL, with the added alterations for men's sizing written into the pattern. Now, as my first option was quite a modern take on colourwork, I did also want to include what I consider to be a just really gorgeous, classic kind of Fair Isle piece. And this is called the Marit, and it is by a designer called Kristin Drysdale. I believe this was originally featured in a knitting magazine, and that's probably why the pictures are just so exceptionally gorgeous. I really enjoy, again, the colour combination that was used for this. I would probably go for something very similar, but I do think that you can customise this in any way you like. Overall, it's just one of the prettiest classic colourwork cardigans I've ever seen. It is, however, not for the faint of heart. This piece is knit up on 3mm needles in fingering weight yarn, so if you choose a very too thick rusty wool, you are going to get a piece that you'll be able to wear for years and years, and that will be a real sort of heirloom. The construction of the Marit is created from the bottom up, and then it is later steeked to add in that beautiful button band. These techniques I do find quite intimidating, but I feel like this would be such a beautiful challenge, maybe something to slowly make over several months to sort of gain your confidence in colourwork and try new techniques. The sample here features 3 harmonious shades, but only 2 are worked together at once. So if you're a little bit intimidated by the idea of adding even more colour, you could just stick to that and just buy the base in fingering weight wool. I do think that this would look equally attractive with a dark base, maybe with a mix of neutral tonal colours for the accents. The cardigan comes with approximately 12 centimetres of positive ease, which is probably in the range of one of my favourite kind of types of fit for this sort of cardigan. If you've seen any of my previous content, you might have come across my Whitmore cardigan. That was a very similar amount of ease, and I just think that it gives you a result that is comfortable but still looks quite fitted and quite polished. Having covered a couple of colourwork patterns, I also wanted to include more scrappy projects for when you have really tiny quantities of yarn. I think that the colourwork options are really great if you have kind of a ball or two left over, and then you just select a body colour and you use up all of those extra balls for accent. However, if you have a lot of really small quantities of scrappy yarn left over, like I do, I mean, I've got absolutely loads of kind of half or quarter balls that I have no idea what to do with. I feel like what you might be after are very scrappy projects that blend together 100 different colours and textures to create something that is almost a unique and completely customised fabric. Any pattern list probably wouldn't really be complete without at least one good addition from Petite Knit. So today I have selected to show you the marble sweater because yeah, I've seen so many iterations of this on Ravelry that are just really creative, really play with different fibres and textures and kind of make a Frankenstein sort of fabric that uses up every scrap you have in your stash. The original marble sweater in these pictures was probably given its name because the combination of yarn that she uses creates a beautiful sort of beige, mild, marbled effect. I really love the look of yarns being blended in this way, and I think it really adds a very interesting sort of textural element to a jumper that is big and chunky and bulky. I think the fact that you're adding in a mohair to something which is knit with Aran weight and DK weight yarn also gives this piece a little bit more structure, because when you're making a very huge sort of oversized squishy jumper like this, it can be easy for it to stretch out. However, if you don't have the really thick mohair that she recommends for this garment, then I think that you could equally swap in several strands of silk mohair. So have a look in your stash and just grab all of the little silk mohair scraps you have and put them all together and see what sort of marling you would get. I was also particularly inspired by some of the knitters who have used a different colour for each row. Some people go for completely vibrant shades and other people go for more sort of tonal, almost gradient effect. But yeah, really the sky is the limit with how you want to combine your fibres and your colours here. And although it is an explosion of different types of yarn, I do like the fact that Petite Knit always stays true to her very simple classic silhouettes. I think that makes it a little bit more pared back and probably a bit easier to slot into the rest of your wardrobe. Now the marble sweater by Petite Knit comes in 9 sizes, from an extra small to a 5XL. Sticking with the idea of using several strands of yarn all together, kind of jumbled to make interesting new textures, I came across this pattern by Le Pull, which is called the Easy Beanie Multicolour. Now this is a really interesting and also quite beginner-friendly design because it's knit flat in garter stitch and then it's seamed together and sort of finished at the top to give it that characteristic beanie shape. The fabric of the hat itself is knit by holding several strands of lace-weight yarn together. In this case, I believe she used a mix of different mohairs. However, you can completely change this to what you have on hand. I believe this piece is made using several strands of lace-weight yarn, which is what gives it this super squishy, fluffy effect. But I do think that it would also really work by using fingering weight yarn or maybe DK held with a mohair. Really, whatever you have on hand, you can kind of incorporate it into this thick, almost tapestry of yarn. The designer here has mixed chunks of black with pops of extremely vibrant yellow or fuchsia, as well as some sections that look like they blend several different shades of yarn together. I think that this is a very trendy piece. Depending on the colours that you go for, you could really create several different types of hats using this pattern. It might not be for me with my normally very neutral palette, but I just know that there are going to be several knitters out there who will really love this bold and very playful combination of colour. In addition to diving into my yarn stash for inspiration, I've also been really laser focused recently on refining the fit of my knitted garments, which is why I've been using Skillshare to help me tailor the finished look of my knits. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives, offering exciting classes in everything from fibre arts like knitting, crochet and embroidery, to productivity, photography, graphic design, and even tips for content creation. Skillshare is the perfect place to build upon your crafting skills, maybe pick up a new hobby or kickstart your creative business. Its classes are taught by industry experts and they're designed to allow you to learn new skills at your own pace. I particularly love how the community is set up to really help you learn by doing, by sharing pictures or the outcomes of your projects with other members to receive feedback and support. As I'm always looking for ways to grow and improve my knitting practice, this month I've been loving the Perfect Fit Knits, understanding and modifying knitting patterns. Many of you will know that one of my biggest missions at the moment is to perfect the fit and wearability of my projects. This class takes you through all of the steps you'll need to achieve a truly excellent fit in your knits, from taking your own measurements to creating a gauge swatch to modifying elements like the yoke and the waist shaping. I'm hoping that exploring and practicing these fundamental skills will allow me to really boost that kind of tailored, finished look of my projects. If you're interested in discovering a new craft or taking your skills to the next level, Skillshare is offering 1 month of free membership to the first 500 people who use my link in the description. Thank you so much to Skillshare for kindly sponsoring this video. Now that I've given you several options of bigger, sort of more ambitious sweater projects that you can incorporate your leftovers into, I also want to spend some time chatting about some really classic accessories that immediately caught my eye. This next project is the double knit scarf and it is by a designer called Hygge Life. I was really blown away by just how clever and crisp this project is. Although it only uses 250 to 300 meters of DK weight yarn, you could be fooled into thinking that this is a full-on long sort of traditional scarf. However, it features the most interesting and clever little additions that I've seen in any accessory pattern for ages. And those are the very strategically placed slits that allow you to take one end of the scarf and gently push it through so that you get a very crisp finished look. Not only does this have the advantage of using only a tiny amount of yarn to create something that looks very classic and wearable, but it also just will give you a very flat and very neat look under your outerwear. As I do find that the big kind of bulky full scarves can be a bit much and sort of drown me when I'm already in a massive coat when it's really cold. I also particularly like the fact that the designer used this small project as the perfect opportunity to use some really precious cashmere yarn. I think yarns like cashmere or maybe camel or a super soft alpaca could be beautiful options for this. You may want to go really neutral and pared back like I probably would, or add a pop of something vibrant like a red, maybe even a green. I think that any of these colours would really work. Nobody will ever know that your scarf actually finishes here when it's tucked in under your coat, but at least you won't have to carry around a huge bulky thing all day. The double knit scarf is actually a free pattern and it is knit up on 4mm needles for a very smooth and neat finish. And if you thought that the last pattern only required a tiny amount of yarn, I want to introduce you to the Beanie number 6 by My Favourite Things. Now, I love the fact that this beanie, due to the colours that she selected, has a very kind of classic shearling hat vibe. It's very cool and I can see it paired with beautiful big kind of camel coats and it will just be so cosy and comfortable. This effect is created by using a combination of 2 different textures of yarn. The top is a simple brown wool, which is knit together quite tightly and it gives you a very warm kind of snug fit on your head. Whereas the bottom is actually created in a boucle yarn, which is what gives it this kind of curly sort of textured look. As with most of her patterns, I really like the colours that were chosen here. I feel that they really work as an homage to a kind of original hat of this type. However, I do also think this could be very cool in black, because it would be very big and voluminous. The beanie number 6 is knit from the bottom up, so first of all you're going to create a long boucle section that you fold double for extra drama, and then you finish it off with that thick and cosy brim. And yeah, this one is just so cute that I couldn't resist adding it to my list. The beanie number 6 comes in a total of 4 sizes for a 49 to a 60 centimetre head circumference. Sticking with my theme of very timeless accessories, my last pattern is actually a 2-in-1, and this is the Camille set by Gregoria Fibres. Some of you will know that I really appreciate the design aesthetic behind Gregoria Fibres patterns, and of course this is no exception. The Camille set offers you the chance to make a beautiful thick beret with a pair of matching ribbed mittens. Overall, I think that these are really charming options to use up your fingering weight and mohair yarn together. I believe these samples are knit with 1 strand of lace weight yarn and then 2 strands of fingering, and that comes to about a total of 300 to 600 meters of the fingering weight yarn. Of course, if you were to go up to a DK weight, that means that you would be able to halve that number. So you would be looking at about 150 to 300 meters of DK weight yarn, which is not very much at all and makes it perfect for stash busting. I really like the simplicity of these accessories because I think it makes them a great canvas for experimenting with, again, texture and colour. You could go for a matching wool and mohair if you wanted to create a set that looked like hers. However, if you wanted to go for something a little bit more wild, a little bit more unusual, you may wish to carry 2 different colours of fingering weight yarn together with a completely different shade of mohair, just to add a pop of kind of interesting mild effect. I might personally go for a mohair that is a shade lighter or a shade darker because I really enjoy when you get a little pop of that silk kind of shining through. It adds a real luster to a finished fabric when you can see that little shimmer of silk. The mittens are a super great simple construction, very beginner friendly, while the beret, due to the thickness of the material, has a lot of structure, so it really holds its shape when worn, which I personally really enjoy. I think that the heaviness of the fabric allows you to have a much more dramatic and kind of sculptural look to your finished hat. Each of these accessories in the Camille set comes in 2 sizes for varying head and hand circumferences. And now we have come to the end of my little stash busting video. Although I had planned some of my bigger projects for 2025 a couple of weeks ago, I felt like there was just a gap kind of missing in my smaller projects and my real kind of scrappy stash busting options. So I hope that this list provided you with a little bit of inspiration. If you've decided to make any of these, do let me know down below in the comments or over on Instagram. I adore to hear if I have kind of spurred you on to make any of these patterns. It's just really fun to see what the community creates and what we share all together. Thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you very soon. Bye!